On a windy day in a new estate, we've come to explore not a small garden, but a tiny garden. I'm Chloe from Been There Dug That. Let's go behind the garden gate. We're in Clyde, an outer southeastern suburb of Melbourne, and this front yard is very different to the backyard that is full of vegetables and fruit trees. Here in the front yard it's exposed, and as you can see it gets battered by the winds. So the plants that the owner Breanna has chosen here are hardy ones, but ones that have plenty of flowers. This fountain grass is putting on a really good display in all this wind. These purpley fronds just look so beautiful when they sway in the breeze. Breanna's particularly passionate that this front yard is a space for bees, pollinators and birds to come into. So she's got a bird bath, and this one up the top is also perfect for bees to get a drink from because it's shallow and it's got the rocks in there that they can land on. Every inch of this backyard, including this narrow access corridor, is used to perfection. Straight away as we come in that back gate, we've got 2 compost bins here, and here is the first veggie bed. This one is full of watermelons, little watermelons, and there is some growing up this vertical trellis as well. More vertical structures with arches everywhere and lots of spaces to grow in pots as well. Breanna loves using these felt pots because they're movable and she can change them up whenever she needs. Narrow spaces, particularly in small gardens, can be really tricky, and this is one of those examples. This area here faces full north up that way, so in the summertime it gets hit by really hot sunshine, but then in winter it's in full shade. Now the good thing is that deciduous things like these plums, the roses, don't mind being in full shade over the winter months when of course they're bare. The lavender, weirdly, is still very happy as well. But over here, Breanna's struggled a little bit. The only things that she's found so far that will survive in this pallet planter are the geraniums. But I've suggested she gives succulents a go. There's a clever use of the bluestone steppers here in the Tiftoff lawn. It's a good idea to put steppers in high traffic areas so that you're not wearing away the lawn. This Tiftoff is a lovely fine leaf grass that's beautiful to walk on in bare feet and very family friendly. These big statement rocks do a wonderful job of defining the curved border back here, and it creates sweet little planting pockets. Here on the south side of this wall is a lovely shady corner with hydrangeas, epimediums and a buddleia. I can even see a cyclamen in a pot. It's a really sweet little corner of the garden, but it continues right round this corner. Now if you look closely you might notice that the apple trees and some of the other fruiting plants are in big pots, but that pot is actually half buried in the ground. Breanna's done this for a couple of reasons. Number one, it helps to secure the pot, especially in heavy winds, and it keeps it in place. But also this isn't their forever home. With 2 young boys, they're going to need more space eventually. So Breanna wants to be able to pick up these fruiting trees and bring them with her to their next place. As we make our way towards this little back deck, the number of veggies and fruit trees is increasing even more. In this little area, I can spot things in those felt planters again, and there's a little veggie bed in here as well. We've got rhubarb, zucchini, there's a pumpkin down here, a tomato, and even a mandarin, as well as some raspberries. And actually growing raspberries in containers is a great way of keeping their suckering roots in check. One of the things that Breanna's found in this smaller space is to choose varieties of veggies and things like tomatoes that are smaller growing, and she uses vertical space as much as possible. This temporary trellising acts as a divider between the deck space and the garden beyond. The reason they have it there is because they've got 2 energetic dogs and 2 young kids, and well, sometimes you need to keep them separated. Even though we're in the suburbs and there's some pretty busy roads nearby, this main living space has a really calming atmosphere, including this water feature with a lovely soft sound and the lovely little rustle that you get from the bamboo swaying in the breeze. Breanna's greenhouse here is a hive of activity at this time of the year and in fact year round. She tends to grow a lot of things from seed because she wants varieties that are really heavy croppers but also great in small spaces. This clumping bamboo does a wonderful job of enclosing this space and giving us some privacy from the 2-storey house behind us. You'll notice that Breanna's removed the lower leaves to really showcase the bamboo stems, which looks really incredible, but it also serves a purpose. If these leaves were left on the bamboo low down, we'd only be left with a really small space to sit. But instead, we've got the whole bench space to enjoy and sit back and have a fire pit with friends. These are the biggest veggie beds in Breanna's garden and they are crammed with plants. There's a few really clever tips in here to give you some ideas on how to grow veggies in small spaces. Let's have a look at them. So tip number 1 is to use as much vertical space as you can. We've got store-bought archway here that the tomatoes are growing over, but then there are lovely handmade vertical structures over here that's got a cucumber, I can spot another cucumber, a pumpkin and a rock melon behind you. After growing veggies in this space for 3 years, Breanna's worked out that choosing the right varieties is also really important, particularly when growing vertically. Here, the Lebanese cucumber doesn't have a lot of foliage, but it still gives you full-size fruit and a really bountiful harvest. If you're growing things like tomatoes that normally have a lot of leaves, you can prune off any of the excess leaves to allow airflow and also for the sun to ripen those tomatoes. Now there's a trick here that I use at my place as well because my veggie boxes are also 1 metre by 1 metre. If you look closely, you'll notice that Breanna plants the largest plants deep into the corners so that they can spill out over the edges, or she can train them up vertically. And if you want to add things like herbs or pretty flowers like this sweet Alice, then plant it on the side so it cascades over the edge and you've got plenty more growing space in the middle. And tip number 3 would be to use raised beds. Here, Breanna has actually put these on wheels because over the last 3 years, she's shifted them around a little bit to find the sunniest spot. Thankfully, she's worked out that it's right here. So the veggies are thriving, but don't be afraid to put things on wheels or grow things in large containers if you're not quite sure, because you can always move them around. This tiny garden is Breanna's happy space and she uses it as a spot to escape from the stresses of life, particularly as a busy teacher. She's created this garden as a family-friendly space, but also as a productive garden to enjoy organic veggies grown at home. And I think you'll agree that what she's achieved in such a small space is really incredible. I hope you've enjoyed exploring Breanna's garden with me today. If you've got a small space, a blank canvas garden, or you live in a new estate, don't be shy of planting a diversity of plants. It's amazing what you can achieve in a small space. Let me know in the comments down below what was the favourite part of this garden for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for joining me on this very windy day. I'll see you next time.